welcome back to Vlogmas. I'm here in my house today and you might hear some little distractions. My granddaughter is homesick and of course my mother's here, my daughter's dog, and my husband is working here in the same room. So anyway, that's just the way life is, right? But I have to say I'm a little bit sad because this is my last Vlogmas by myself. This will air on the 23rd and Jonna and I decided to do Christmas Eve together. And that'll be really fun. But it's been so nice to share my life with you, a little bit about all the activities that I do and my hobbies. Anyway, another one of the things that I love to do is bake. And I know I haven't shared that yet because I've been so busy, but I do love to bake Christmas cookies. I used to bake Christmas cookies with my grandmother as a little girl. As a matter of fact, when we first moved to New York, I was in high school and my grandmother moved here with us for the 2 years that I was finishing high school because my parents worked in New York City, and so my grandmother would make sure we got to school and be there when we got home from school. I mean, we were in high school, she didn't have to take care of us, but it was nice to have a presence here, especially in a new environment completely across the country. Anyway, I loved my grandmother dearly. She's no longer with us, but she used to make the most beautiful Christmas cookies, and most of them originated in Norway because her parents were from Norway and they came to the US at some point in the early 1900s and they moved to North Dakota. And unfortunately, we don't know anything about them. My grandmother passed away years ago and we don't know where all her records and everything are. But her name, my grandmother's name, was Ellen Adele Wallen, and she was born in 1915, I assume in North Dakota. And she was the youngest of a few siblings, maybe 5 or 6 siblings. And she had a sister named Elsie Wallen, who eventually my grandmother moved to Portland, Oregon, and Elsie moved to the same area. So we really knew Elsie very well. We called her Tanny, and I'm assuming that came from the Norwegian word, which is similar to the German word for aunt, which is Tante. I'm assuming it's the same, but we called her Aunt Tanny, which is kind of funny. It's like aunt. But anyway, they had a farm in North Dakota. So if you know of a Wallen family that moved from Norway to North Dakota in the early 1900s, and then my grandmother married a man named Jules Beito, B-E-I-T-O, and they moved to Portland, Oregon. So if you are related to us in any way or know of this family, contact me. I would love to know a little bit more about my history. But anyway, my grandmother used to make all these beautiful Norwegian cookies, and most of them had special tools. And so today I'm going to bake. I haven't had time to bake because of all my Christmas concerts and everything else going on, but I am going to bake today. So let me share some of these tools with you, and especially my grandmother hand wrote all the recipes. When I was an adult and I moved to Austria and I wanted to bake the cookies in Austria, she hand wrote all of the recipes for me, and I've since laminated them because they were falling apart and getting stained. And some of them have special little notes on them just to me, but this first one is for Norwegian rosettes, and they have a special tool, and it looks like this. And I think this is probably one of our original Norwegian rosette irons. This is our favorite shape. We've since bought other sets, and this is our favorite though. So basically you make the batter and then you dip this in hot oil so that it gets hot, and then you dip it in the batter and then you put it back in the hot oil and it sizzles and it makes these crispy little yummy rosettes. So we love to make those. I will make those today. We also she used to make sandkaker. So I don't know exactly if I'm saying it correctly, but I think these are her original sandkaker tins. And you would put a teeny tiny bit of flour in the bottom of the tin and a little ball of dough, and then you press it. I don't know if you can see, you kind of press it like this into the tin, going round and round until it's nice and thin. And then you bake them and pop them all out. We never used to fill them, we would just eat them empty. But these are my grandmother's original tins, and they got like rusty or kind of rough around the edges, so you couldn't get the cookies out. So a few years ago, I searched far and wide. I ordered so many that didn't work, but I finally found these. They're kind of like non-stick, and they work okay, but they're not exactly the same. They don't have the same small, they're a little bigger on the bottom. I don't know. I like my grandmother's the best, but they do okay. So those were sandkakers. We also used to make krumkaker, which are the Norwegian cones, and these are my daughter Jenny's all-time favorites. And these are definitely sometimes a little difficult to make, but I have my grandmother's original krumkaker iron, but you set this thing on top of the burner, and then you put the dough inside, and then you close it and it sizzles a little bit, and then you flip it over and let it cook a little on that side, and then you remove the dough, you remove the cookie, like the little crepe, and you roll it onto this little cone and let it cool, and they're just these delicate little lacy cones that my daughter Jenny absolutely loves. And let me just try to show you what the inside of the iron looks like, because it's so beautiful. Can you see it? So it just makes this beautiful lacy pattern, and they're just lovely. And we never used to fill those either. We just like to eat them kind of crispy, empty little cones. So another one that I'm not going to make today, because the dough is really hard. It's not hard to make, but it's a really stiff dough, and I don't know. I'm just not going to make these today. But it's called Fatiman, Fattigman, and this is probably not our original thing, but you roll out the dough, and then you roll this on it to make these little diamonds, and in the center of the diamond, this thing makes a little slit, and then you pull one end of the diamond through the other, and it looks like a knot, and you deep fry them. And they have kind of a lemony, I think there's lemon zest in the dough, and then you sprinkle them with powdered sugar, and those are really yummy, but I'm not going to make them today. I only have so much time, I can't make all of them. And then the last one that I'm going to talk about that has a tool is Swedish Spritz. Swedish Spritz are your traditional, I'm sure you know, Christmas cookies. You sprinkle red and green sugar on them, and we get little silver dragees and decorate the little wreaths and the little trees and the little flowers. And I used to have a hand crank cookie press from my grandmother, which is, again, hard to use. We did it, but you have to know exactly how much dough to crank out so that the cookie sticks to the sheet and isn't misshapen. But since then, I don't even know where that one is anymore, but I have my Williams-Sonoma cookie press, which works. It works okay. And then one more Swedish cookie, or not Swedish, Norwegian cookie that we used to make is, oh no, actually it is called a Swedish dream cookie in English, but it's a drummer, D-R-O, with the two little dots, M-M-E-R. And these are my favorite. You basically brown the butter before you make them, and it gets this like gritty texture. And then you make the dough and you press a pecan. We do pecans in the center, or a little indentation with raspberry jam. And they just melt in your mouth. They're so, so, so delicious. And then I am going to make a couple more cookies today. Two are from my grandmother, but they're not Norwegian. One is pecan fingers. They kind of look like those crescent-shaped wedding cookies that people make with the powdered sugar, but these are way better. These are one of my very all-time favorites. Love them. And then Frisbees. Frisbees are my husband's favorite, and you make a buttermilk oatmeal. You make a dough, you roll it out, and you cut circles, and then you make a date filling. And so they're these little date-filled sandwich cookies, and they're just heavenly. And finally, this is a much more recent recipe. I make chocolate crinkle cookies that I got a recipe somewhere. Right now I have a Williams-Sonoma recipe. But they're chocolate and you roll balls and you put powdered sugar on them first, and then you bake them, and they kind of, when they spread, they make these crinkles in the tops. So as far as these cookies go, though, I have to admit I am going to insert pictures, but the pictures are from a few years ago. Right now, as you all know from all of our episodes, mini-sodes, and even my Vlogmas, my house is kind of in upheaval with, just everything going on. So many people living here, and today my granddaughter is homesick. The kitchen is really cluttered, so I'm not going to be able to take pictures today. And my husband's working. He's the best photographer for that kind of thing. But a few years ago, he took gorgeous pictures of me baking some of these cookies. So at the end of this, I'll insert those pictures. So they are from a few years ago, but they are me. And you'll see back then I used to have the most beautiful manicured fingernails. No more. I used to get like a permanent French manicure, but I stopped because it would destroy my nail underneath. So anyway, now I never ever get polish on my nails. They're just plain. I get polish on my toes, but not my fingernails. Doing too many dishes and stuff, it just chips off all the time. So over the years also, just so you know, I don't do this anymore, but my gift to our family friends were platters of cookies. So I would make thousands of cookies and make platters for each family or friends or local businesses that I would frequent often. I used to make a schedule of everything so I would know, because I still worked full time, so I could only make them at night or on the weekends. So for instance, I would start with pecan fingers, make the dough because you have to chill it. And then I would make the dough for the chocolate crinkles and bake them while the pecan finger dough was cooling. And next was the drummers. I would brown the butter because that has to cool. And then in between that, I would make the sandkaker dough and chill that. I mean, I had it all down, written in order, exactly what to do so that I could finish everything. I was kind of crazy. And this is one of the last years that I did all those platters was 2010. I think this was about when my kids started graduating high school and going to college. So I would have to go and, around Christmas time, pick them up at college. So who has time to bake when you're, transporting kids back and forth from school? But this year I counted, I made 52 platters. I would go buy empty platters and plates, different sizes. And for each platter, for instance, for families, if there was a family of 7 in the house, then I would put 7 of each cookie on each platter. For a family of 4, I would put 4 of each cookie. So I'll try to insert, if I have pictures of a platter or two, so you can see that production. But I love doing it. And I would make, at the height of my cookie baking platters time, I would make 13 different cookies. And eventually I made this little printout that I would send with them describing the cookies, each cookie, the ingredients, partly for allergies. But at the top I wrote, I hope you enjoy these cookies. I love to bake them because they remind me of my grandmother, Ellen Adele Bido, a first-generation Norwegian American. Since I was a very little girl, she and I would spend hours baking these delicious confections together. So that was a fun time in my life. People still talk about it, and maybe I'll get back to it someday, but I honestly just haven't had time recently. So I guess that's basically it. I need to get baking right now. But I did want to also mention behind me on my mantle, I have a new nativity scene. And it's made of stained glass. And basically my friend Prentice, by the way, is the director of the a cappella group that I sing in. Besides being a very, very talented musician, she's become a good friend of mine. And her grandmother, as a hobby, used to do stained glass and make all these beautiful creations. And Prentice has many, many of these family heirlooms. And when I went to rehearsal recently, she pulled this out of a bag and asked me if I wanted it. And I just couldn't believe it. She said she just doesn't really have anywhere to display it. She has a small child. And instead of having it in a box in her attic, she thought I might enjoy it. So she gave it to me, and it's so beautiful. I'll try to take a picture of it so you can see it a little more close up. But I did tell her, she has a young daughter. I said, if your daughter ever wants it back, please tell her to come and get it, and she can have it. But for now, I will enjoy it and display it very happily. So I think that's basically it. And again, it's been so fun to do Vlogmas with you. And I hope that you've enjoyed it. Well, I know you have. You guys have commented so much. But I hope you enjoy my one day of Christmas baking. And if you want any of the recipes, let me know. And I will probably in the new year. I won't be able to do it now. But sometime in January, I'll try to type them all up and post them somewhere. Okay? Thank you so much. Bye.